What's up, folks? Zach Barnes here, and I'm excited to present to you my starter piano class. Now, I just wanted to give you a quick rundown why I made this. So, I do have a lot of material that I teach, but it's more mid-tier to advanced level, and I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a class that'll just get you started. I get asked a lot just about the basics. So, here is a 1 hour long masterclass on the basics of piano. Okay, now I highly recommend taking this full course. It's going to teach you things like the basis of chord theory and harmony, what chords are, what scales are, and like why you need them. You're actually going to learn some songs in this class, and I'm going to put a list somewhere around this video that's going to give you the rundown of the course material, which you can expect to learn. But take this course in its entirety. I'm not teaching from the normal perspective of like, hey, here's the C scale, this is where we start. I'm teaching you all the things that I think you should know as a piano player that will set you up for learning other things. If you can learn stuff and really digest it and get it down, this is going to make learning other stuff so much easier, and you'll understand all the other intermediate to advanced lessons that I will be teaching. So without further ado, take this course and don't forget to click the link in the description below for the free study guide to go along with it. I'll catch you guys in there. All right, so welcome. So first things first, let's just get some basics out the way. So with this keyboard or with piano, there's 88 keys, right? And they're divided in groups of 12. So it may look intimidating, but there are only 12 keys, right? Those are the 12 keys, and it's just repeated over and over again. Okay, we got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then you have these black keys that are referred to as sharps and flats. And we're gonna get more to this later, but this is just to give you an idea. So there's 12 keys and it repeats over and over again. There's 88 total on a full keyboard. Now, let's go ahead and look at the layout. So we have the white keys at the bottom, we have the black keys at the top. Now, what's cool about this is that you can easily identify it by the groups. So if we take a look at the black keys, we see that we have a group of 2 black keys and a group of 3 black keys. And that loops over and over and over again, right? 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, right? Now, the group of 2 black keys, the very first note is C. So if you find a group of 2 black keys on any part of the keyboard, that first white note is C. Okay, so let's go find all the C's. Okay, and then on the end of that note, on the end of that same group is E. Okay, so that's just a really easy way to kind of landmark and see the keyboard. You can easily find the notes. So the group of 2 black keys has C, D, E. The group of 3 black keys starts with F and ends on B. So we have F, G, A, B. Okay, so if you're just new to piano and you're kind of like intimidated by the keyboard, hopefully this breaks it down so you understand it and you say, okay, it's 88 keys, but now you can see the pattern. We've got a group of 12 keys, you know, repeating across the entire keyboard, and they're separated by these 2 groups of black keys, 2 and 3. The groups of 2 start with C, D, E. The group of 3 starts with F, G, A, B. Okay, and I highly recommend getting this program Chords. It's linked in the description below, and this will help you also learn the notes as well. Highly recommend this app for teaching and learning, because when you play stuff, it shows you the chords and allows you to learn what you're playing. So now that you kind of know that, let's move on to the next thing, and that would be sharps and flats. So sharps and flats, not to confuse you, like I said, I'm just going to touch on it and we'll get more into it later. But long story short, you have your 12 notes, C. Now when you go up, it's a sharp. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp. And then when you go down, it's flat. So E, E flat, D, D flat. Another way to think about it is, if you're gonna sharp something, it needs to go up. If you're gonna flat something, you go down or you go backwards, right? So this would be up, right? The keyboard's rising in pitch. So this is what we call going up the keyboard. And then if we're going down the keyboard, as you can hear, the sound goes down. So this way is up the keyboard, this way is down the keyboard. So sharps go up the keyboard, flats go down the keyboard. So if someone said play B, well, we know here's B, and then now if they said, well, play B flat, well, you find the B and then you flat it.
If somebody said play G sharp, you first find G. And if they say, now since it's a sharp, you go up a half step. Okay, so we have G flat, G sharp, F sharp, F flat, which we will also call E. This will just give you a basic principle. Now sharps and flats are based off intervals. And what I mean by that is a sharp and a flat is a half step interval. Now music is made of intervals. You have fourths, fifths, sixths, tenths, half steps, whole steps. The whole step and half step are the most fundamental interval. And that is literally the note next to it. So a half step is the note touching it next to it on the left or right. That's a half step. That's a half step. A whole step is when you go 2 half steps, right? So it's two moves. So instead of the note next to it, it's the note 2 notes next to it. So that's a whole step. Okay, so half step is the note right next to it. Those are half steps, and a whole step is 2 next notes to it. 2 notes next to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this quick video on half steps and whole steps. Hey everyone, welcome back to Saucy Sounds. Yay! Today I want to talk about whole steps and half steps, and whether you're a beginner or an experienced player, understanding whole steps and half steps is essential to understanding chord theory, scales, and more. So in music, we use steps to measure the distance between 2 notes. A whole step is equivalent to 2 half steps, and a half step is the smallest distance we can move between 2 notes. Let me show you. So I'm going to play the note C, and then move up 2 half steps to play the note D. That is a whole step. Now I'm going to play the note C again, and then move up just 1 half step to play the note C sharp. That is a half step. So you're probably wondering why whole steps and half steps are so important for piano players and music in general. Well, the reality is they form the foundation of music theory. More specifically, they are the foundation to understanding intervals. Now, intervals are huge. When we play a melody or a chord progression on the piano or a solo, we move between notes using intervals made up of some combination of whole steps and half steps, creating different moods and emotions in the music.
Like this!
Let's take scales as a simple example. Scales are made up of specific combinations of whole steps and half steps. For example, the major scale pattern of steps is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. As I said before, understanding whole steps and half steps is just the beginning of the larger picture of intervals, which I'll be covering in another video. So thanks again for watching. I hope this video helped you understand whole steps and half steps a bit better. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, comment below, and I'll see you back for more music tutorials and music theory tips. As always, stay saucy. Okay, so now that you understand that, the next thing to understand is chords. So a chord is 3 or more notes played at one time. So for instance, we can take a C major chord. That's a C major chord. It's just when you take a bunch of individual notes, put them together, that's a chord. And chords come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So there's a little demonstration of different types of chords you can play. Now, it's just like I said, it's a group of notes and pitches played simultaneously together. That's all that is. So with chords, there's a lot of different types. You have major, you have minor, you have augmented, you have diminished, so you have dominant, and we'll get to all those, but this is just to expose you to like what's out there so you're familiar. So you have a bunch of different types of chords, and they have a bunch of different variations. You can take minor chords, and you can add variations on top. Sorry, a little bit sloppy playing there. But so you can modify those chords as well. So there's a lot that you can go with it. We're gonna start with the 2 most basic chords, and that's the major and minor triad. So let's start with the major triad. Okay, so we're gonna play the C major triad, and those notes are C, E, and G. Okay? Now, this is an extremely easy chord to play, and it's based on the C major scale, and we will get to scales in a second, but let's just get you familiar with some major basic chords that are in songs. One of the most popular songs that I think everyone knows is the song Wild Thing. right? Now that song is made up of entirely major chords. So if you want to know what a major chord sounds like, listen to that song. It's a really simple song and it's made strictly of major triads. So let's go ahead and learn that. So it's C, E, G, and you can steal the fingering here, C, E, G. The next chord is F, A, C. The next chord after that is G, B, D. G major triad. Then we go back down to the F major triad. Okay, so C major triad, F major triad, G major triad, back to the F major triad, and then C major triad. Okay, and that's the chorus to Wild Thing, and then you just add the rhythm. So I want you to learn that right now. It's very, very, very important for you to start learning songs as soon as possible, because if you don't learn songs, none of this will make sense. So this is the context, okay? And then once you have your right hand down, you can add in the left hand as well. Okay, now you might be wondering, why am I jumping around the keyboard? Well, that's because you haven't learned about voicings and inversions yet. There's easier ways to play that, but that's for later. So stick with me, we're gonna get there. But for now, practice this and learn this. And when I mean learn it, I don't mean just like copy the notes, but like once you copy the notes, pause this video, practice it for 15-20 minutes so you can actually play it well, like 4 times in a row without messing up, and then move on, all right? Really important. Okay, that was 4 times in a row. That's what I mean. Do that and then move on. Now let's move on to the next one. The next one is going to be scales. So why am I bringing up scales? The reason why I'm bringing up scales is because the only way to understand chords is if you understand scales, because scales are the building blocks of how you identify chords. Here's what I mean by that. To play a major triad, you have to play the 1, 3, and 5 of that major scale. But if you don't know the scale, you can't figure out that chord. So I wanted to show you the song first and then show you why you need scales so it makes sense. People think scales are evil, and they can be, but we're not going to learn them in this course just because. We're going to learn scales because they help us learn chords, and chords is what you want to play. If you want to play all this stuff, you have to understand scales at least to a degree. So that's the goal. So anyways, a scale. What is a scale? A scale is just simply a sequence of notes ordered by like a fundamental frequency, right? So we call that a key. So we're in the key of C, and that is our scale. We could be in the key of D, right? That'd be our key, that'd be our scale. So once you understand a scale, once you learn a scale, then we can start giving you chord formulas, right? It's like I said, you know, C major triad is the 1, 3, 5 of the major scale. So the C major scale is all the white notes. Okay, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you get the picture. The notes are numbered. So when I say play the 1, 3, 5 of any major scale, and that gives you a major triad. Let's go ahead and watch this video breaking down what are major chords. Are you a beginner musician looking to level up your chord game? Major triads are the perfect place to start. In just 5 easy steps, you'll be playing bright and happy chords that sound great in any genre. Let's get saucy. So what are triads? Before we dive into major triads, let's quickly review what triads are. Triads are chords made up of 3 notes, the root note, the 3rd, and the 5th of a scale. For example, in the key of C, a C triad will be made up of the notes C, E, G. Now, since we're talking about major triads, you need to first understand the major scale. The major scale is a 7-note scale that has a specific pattern of whole steps and half steps between each note. That pattern is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you don't know what whole steps and half steps are, watch this video here. The major scale is the foundation of Western music and is used in many genres from pop to classical to jazz. Now that you understand the major scale, let's look at how you build major triads. To build a major triad, you start with the root note of the chord, then add the note that is a major third above it, and finally add the note that is a perfect fifth above the root note. Another way that I like to look at it is simply as a numerical formula. Simply play the 1, the 3, and the 5 of any major scale to create a major triad. Let's go through some examples. In the key of C major, the first note is C, the third note is E, and the fifth note is G. Now we have a C major triad. Let's try the key of G major. Once again, our formula to create a major triad is by playing the 1, 3, and the 5 of any major scale. So, in the key of G major, that is G, B, and D. Lastly, let's try the key of E flat major. The 1 is E flat, the third note is G, and the fifth note is B flat. Now we have an E flat major triad. Now that you can play major triads, you can take it a step further and play it in different inversions. An inversion is when you play the same notes of a triad but in a different order. There are 3 possible inversions of a major triad. The root position, where the root is the lowest note, first inversion, when the third is the lowest note, and lastly, the second inversion, when the fifth is the lowest note. If you're new to inversions and want to learn more about them, I have a full-length video about inversions linked here. Now that you understand major triads, you can start using them in your music. Major triads are commonly used in pop, rock, country, and many other genres of music. They're great for creating bright, happy, and uplifting sounds in your music.
So pretty!
Here's an example of progression of major chords. And that's it. Those are the 5 easy steps to understanding major triads. Remember, a major triad is made up of the 1, 3, 5, or the first, third, and fifth note of a major scale. Play around with the different inversions and chord progressions to find the sound that you like. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and subscribe, and I'll see you back for more music theories. Stay saucy. Okay, so now that you understand the genetic makeup of major triads, just know that there's a bunch of different types of scales out there, and that's what allows us to make different chords, and you can reference different notes. Again, we'll get to that later. That's more advanced stuff, but let's stick with the major and minor. So you know the idea of the major chord and how it's based in the major scale. Next would be a minor chord, which is based in the minor scale. So once again, this is why it's important for you to learn your scales. It's not so much that you're a piano virtuoso that's, super fast, although that's great to have. It's actually so you can understand chord theory a lot faster. One of the fastest ways to get discouraged with playing music is learning super slow. And not knowing your scales stops you from learning quickly. So I don't necessarily recommend you have to learn all the scales at once, but I'm going to show you how I practice the scales and how you can learn them and make them fun. So we just did the major scale, and we just did the major chord. Let's run over a couple of major scales, okay? So we have the C scale, C major scale, which is just the white notes. And then we were playing Wild Thing, right? So the other scale was F major. And the last chord we had was a G major chord based off the G major scale. Now you might be wondering, we have different notes, right, in these scales. So why does it fit? We're gonna get to that later as part of diatonic harmony. But so as you can see, those triads, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. So as you can see, those 3 chords are major chords based off the 1, 3, 5 of their major scale. Now that you know what major sounds like, extremely happy and bright, we're gonna switch to minor scales, okay, or minor chords. And so let's take this song by Rihanna, which is Shine Bright Like a Diamond. Okay, now this one uses major and minor, but we're gonna get there. So the first chord, we're in the key of D on this one. And I'll go ahead and switch it over. Now again, we're gonna get to all the theory behind it later, but right now it's important for you to play songs and just start having fun. So you can listen to Wild Things and play that, and now you can also play, we're gonna learn how to play Diamonds by Ariana. So we're in the key of D. The very first chord is G major. So learn this right now. We're gonna learn this right now. G, B, and D. Now the next chord is B minor. So let's watch this video on minor triads and how they exist. Welcome back to Saucy Sounds, everyone.
Welcome back.
Previously I covered major triads, but in this video I'm going to talk about minor triads. And in just 5 easy steps, you'll be playing dark and emotional chords that are essential in many genres. Let's get saucy. So before we start, let's recap what a triad is, just in case you don't know. Triads are chords made up of 3 notes, the root note, the third, and the fifth note of a scale. For example, in the key of A minor, an A minor triad would be made up of the notes A, C, and E. Since we're talking about minor triads, you need to first understand the natural minor scale. The natural minor scale is a 7-note scale that has a specific pattern of whole steps and half steps between each note. That pattern is whole, half, whole, half, whole. If you don't know what whole steps and half steps are, watch this video here. The natural minor scale is used in many genres, from classical to metal to pop. Now that you understand the natural minor scale, let's look at how to build minor triads. To build a minor triad, you start with the root note of the chord, then add the note that is a minor third above it, and finally add the note that is a perfect fifth above the root note. The way I like to look at it is as a numerical formula. If you're basing it on the major scale, simply play a 1, flat third, and 5. If you're basing it on a natural minor scale, simply play the 1, the 3, and the 5. And that's how you get your minor triad. Let's go through some examples in the key of A minor. The first note is A, the third note is C, and the fifth note is E. Now we have an A minor triad. Let's try the key of D minor. Again, our formula to create a minor triad is by playing the 1, the flat 3 and 5 of a major scale, or the 1, 3, 5 of a natural minor scale. So in the key of D minor, that is D, F, and A. Lastly, let's try the key of A flat minor. The 1 is the A flat, the third is B, and the fifth is E flat. Now we have an A flat minor triad. Now that you can play minor triads, you can take it a step further and play them in different inversions. There are 3 possible inversions of a minor triad. You have the root position, where the root note is the lowest note. You have first inversion, when the third note is the lowest note. And then you have second inversion, where the fifth note is the lowest note. If you are new to inversions and want to learn more about them, I have a full-length video about inversions here. Now that you understand minor triads, you can start using them in your music. Minor triads are commonly used in rock, metal, blues, and many other genres of music. They're great for creating dark, emotional, intense sounds in your music. I tend to like minor triads. Here is an example of a chord progression featuring minor chords. And those are the 5 easy steps to understanding minor triads. Remember, a minor triad is made up of the 1, minor third, and fifth of any major scale, or the 1, 3, 5 of a natural minor scale. Remember, it's really important to make sure that you're using the numerical formulas with the correct scale. So play around with different versions and chord progressions to find the sound that you like, and as always, stay saucy. Okay, so now that you understand minor triads, we have G major triad, B minor triad, and then A major triad, and then F sharp minor triad, and then back to G major triad. Okay, so let's learn that right now. Okay, again, G major triad, you can steal the fingering. B minor triad, and then A major triad to F sharp minor triad. And then you can play it. All right, so quick side note. What I'm doing, the left hand is playing what's called octaves. An octave is simply just 8 notes, okay? So C to C, that's an octave. As you can see on the screen, how convenient. So that's all I'm doing. I'm playing just an octave. That's just the same note in 2 different registers. All right, so moving on. So this song is just a good song to practice both major and minor chords so you can understand what they sound like. One of the most important things to do in music is to learn what different chords sound like. So when you're listening to a song or a record, you can easily identify, oh, that's major, that's minor. It's called ear training. So don't just learn the fingering, continue to practice, continue to play it, and also pay attention. Once you have your fingers down, pay attention to what it sounds like. That's major, it's happy sounding. That's minor, it's more melancholy. It's back to major, back to minor. So you want to know the difference between major and minor. Very, very different, and that's important. Okay, so now you have a basic understanding of just major triads, minor triads, what a chord is, what are scales, and why they're important. And now it's time to go into harmony. So with harmony, this is important. This is like, what is harmony? Harmony is kind of like the word harmonious. It's just how things work together. It's how you take multiple chords and notes and put them together to form cool stuff, which is how we get stuff like this. So what made that sound so amazing is the kind of harmony that I put into that. So the cool part is there is a basic pattern of harmony that we're going to learn. It is called diatonic harmony. And there's a free PDF study guide to go along with this little cheat sheet that I made for you guys. And this is how it works. So every key has a basic set of harmony rules, so to speak. Or should I say this, the standard default. And the way it works is we're going to play chords using only the notes of that scale, of that key or that scale. So if we're in the key of C, we're gonna play that C major triad, right? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk it up through the scale, okay? So if you hear that, you can hear the chords are changing. And you're like, wait a minute, they don't all sound like the same chord. It's because they're not the same chord. And as you do this, we reveal the basic diatonic harmony pattern. Diatonic just means root key. So the basic pattern, right? So we're in the key of C, and diatonic means to only use the notes in that key. So C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and then C major again. So that is the pattern, and that's the cheat sheet. Go down like that in the link in the description below. It's major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, half diminished or diminished, and then major. That is the pattern. So memorize that pattern because this leads us into the number system. And you might have heard of this. You might have heard people calling 1, 2, 5, 6, whatever. That is the number system. And that is simply an easy way to reference chords without having to talk about the exact key. Think of it like an Excel spreadsheet. It's a reference. So by using numbers, you can take that formula and use it across any key. If I tell you C major, F major, and G major, there's nothing wrong with that, but it only works if you're in the key of C. But if I tell you 1, 4, 5, you can use that in any key, as long as you know the 1, 4, 5. So I just play 1, 4, 5 in several different keys because I understand, I know the scale, I know the numbers. And that leads us to the number system. So let's go into how does the number system work. Let's take a look at that song Wild Thing. It's the one that we learned before, right? So get your cheat sheet out, right? Get your cheat sheet out. And as we look at it, remember, we have this diatonic pattern: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. So the 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished, and 8 is major. So if I say play the 1, 4, 5, if we're looking at the song Wild Things, I say, okay, the song Wild Things, it is the 1, 4, 5 of any key. So we're in the key of C. Wild Things is played by playing 1, 4, 5. The first note in the key of C is C. The fourth note is F, and the fifth note is G. Okay, great. Now that we know the bass pattern, what are the corresponding basic harmony patterns? Well, 1 is major, 4 is major, 5 is major. And so that is how we can learn how to play the song. So now we know. What if I said, hey, we're gonna play the 1, 2, 3 of a song? Well, we know 1 is major, 2 is minor, and 3 is minor. And that is how we learn songs, and that's how we use the number system. So let's take a look at the song Diamonds by Rihanna. Now we're in the key of B, B minor, D major. We're gonna say D major. We're in the key of D major. It's 4, right? So the first chord is a G chord. If we're in the key of D, what note is that in the key of D? 1, 2, 3, 4. G is the 4th note in the key of D. B is the 6th note in the key of D. A is the 5th note in the key of D, and F sharp is the 3rd note in the key of D. Well, let's look at our cheat sheet. We learned the 4 is major, the 6 is minor, the 5 is major, and the 3 is minor. So we know we're gonna play G major, B minor, A major, F sharp minor. Again, this is why scales are so crucial, because how do you know what B minor is? By learning the B minor scale, and as the video showed, that lesson showed, it's the 1, 3, 5 of the B minor scale, right? It's not B major, it's B minor, that flat third. But if you don't know your scales, you won't be able to identify which number is which note is which, okay? So this is why you need to learn scales. It's not to be boring and bland, but it's to help you learn chords very fast. The better you know your scales, the faster you can learn all these cool different passing chords. So, back to diamonds. We have 4, 6, 5, 3, 4, 6, 5, 3, 4. Okay, that's the number system. So as you see, it's not as intimidating or scary as it seems, right? It's just simply using this cheat sheet. Every note has a number, right? Whatever key you're in, know the note. So if we're in the key of D, D is the first note, A is the 5th note, F sharp is the 3rd note, G is the 4th note, B is the 6th note, C sharp is the 7th note. And each one of those notes has a corresponding basic harmony chord, right? D, the 1 is major, the 5 is major, the 4 is major, the 3 is minor, the 2 is minor, the 6 is minor, the 7 is diminished. And you can use that anywhere. So that is the natural number system. That is how we translate and talk about chords, because you can take that number and apply it anywhere. If we wanted to play diamonds in another key, let's say you're like, hey, we want to play diamonds, but we're not going to play it in D. We're going to play it in the key of E flat. Well, you already know the pattern is 4, 6, 5, 3. So if we're in the key of E, let's do another key. Let's do F sharp. That's the scale. So the pattern is 4, 6, 5, 3. The 4th note in the key of F sharp, what's the 4th note? 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th note is B, okay? And then after B, it's 6. So what's the 6th note in the F sharp? E flat. What's the 5th note? D flat. And what is the 3rd note? B flat. So that's our pattern. To the 5, to the 3, to the 4. Okay, so remember, these numbers are applying to the key. You have to know the key that you're in for this to work. That is the reference point, right? That is like the bucket of context. We're in the key of F sharp, which means the F sharp scale. So then 3rd, 4th note, 6, 5, 3, 4. So now that you have that down, the next thing to do is you have to play the chords. Look at your cheat sheet. 4 is major. 6 is minor. Now again, you have to know your scale, because how would you know what E flat minor is unless you knew your E flat major scale? And you flat the third. Okay? This is why it's so important to know your scales. And then now we have D flat, which is major, which is the 5. Back to 3 minor, back to 4 major, right? All right, anyways, I'm carried away. So that is the number system. I hope that makes sense. So moving on, let's hit the 2-5-1. So you might have heard this phrase a lot, right? What is a 2-5-1? 2-5-1 is actually a lot easier than it sounds. It's just simply exactly how it's the number system. We're in the key of F sharp, and we have 2, 5, 1. That's it. And what it's referencing is a common movement based off the cycle of fours. So before we get to cycle of fours, which is next, let's just real quickly go over the 2-5-1 one more time. So just like the number system says, if we have a pattern, right? So the pattern for diamonds was 4, 6, 5, 3, 4. A 2-5-1. Same thing, 2, 5, 1. Now it's synonymous with passing chords because that's typically how passing chords are played in some variation of a 2-5-1, right? Right? All that stuff I played was some variation of a 2-5-1. And it's very common in jazz. And basically what it means is you have your minor 2, your dominant 5, and then your major 1. Or you can have a minor 2-5-1, which you have your half diminished, and then your dominant, and then you can land on your minor 2-5, your minor 1. So again, we'll get to more of the details on that later. You can check that out in my passing chords course, but this is just to get you familiar. And again, it's all rooted back into the number system. And it's based on the cycle of fours. The cycle of fours is the progression of which music has movement, okay? So what that means is the fourth note of every scale sticks out. So in the key of C, the fourth note, it's not a sour note, it just sticks out. When you move things in fourths, it tends to feel right and have good movement. So let me explain. So I just did literally everything in fourths, okay? I just went from C to F to B flat to cycle. Okay, that was cycle of fours. And so that pattern, it creates movement, and it's like for whatever reason, that's just a natural pattern that music seems to move. So like for instance, when we play Wild Things, that F chord is the 4 chord. And if you notice, the song has a feeling of movement once we hit the F chord. It's like we move somewhere else. Let's see how it sounds when we go to the third. It's still movement, but it didn't sound like we went to somewhere different. Let's try the 5. Doesn't sound bad, but there's something missing. When we hit the 4, now all of a sudden you could feel the movement, and then we come back to the C. Does that make sense? So I'm not gonna get too far deep into that. Just understand the cycle of fours is important to know, and let's watch this quick video just demonstrating how to play the cycle of fours. Okay, I just wanna give you guys quickly how to identify the circle of fours. Circular fourths is important because it just helps you understand the relationship between the keys. So we're just going to take a major scale starting on C, and we're simply going to play up to the fourth note of every single major scale, and you'll see the cycle of fourths be revealed. So we start on C, right? The C scale is this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now we're in the key of F. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in the key of B flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in the key of E flat. Right, and that's the cycle of fourths. So it's just literally the fourth note in every scale. Okay, and again, you can find that just by simply playing the first four notes of the scale. We played the first four notes. Now we got to switch to this scale, which is F. We played the first four notes. Now we got to switch to this scale, which is B flat. We played the first four notes. Now we got to switch to this scale, which is E flat. You see the pattern? And you want to memorize that because that's going to be really important. All those passing chords that you hear me play, it's all using cycle of fourths. I'm passing using cycle of fourths. So you hear me talk about that a lot in lessons. So please make sure you learn that. Nothing crazy there. Catch you on the next one. So now that you understand that cycle of fourths, let's go ahead and play another song by Roberta Fleck called I Feel Like Making Love. And D'Angelo did a remix to it. But it's in the key of E flat. And it starts off with the 2-5-1. Okay, so this is an E flat. And learn it. Why not? It's okay if you don't understand all the theory. That comes with practice and time. But for now, just learn. Rewind this lesson as many times as you need to keep up. This is good stuff. All right, so we're in the key of E flat. This is the E flat scale. I'm sorry. Let me actually change this first. E flat. So that's the E flat scale. Starts on a 2-5-1. So again, we're in the key of E flat. What is the second note? Do a little Blues Clues here and let you guess it. What is the second note of E flat scale? So the second note of the E flat scale, you guessed it's F. So you have F minor, 5, B flat dominant, and then E flat major. Now, if you're looking at your cheat sheet, you'll see that I've got some, slashes there, right? Because we have major, minor, minor, major, dominant, because we added some extra notes. I'll get to extensions in a bit. But the 5 is major or the 5 is dominant. And then the 7 is diminished or it's half diminished. Again, we'll get to that in the next section. So this song starts off with the 2-5-1. So F minor 7, but let's play it saucy. This might be hard for you to do. If not, if it is, take out a note, but I'm playing here, A flat, B flat, C, E flat, G. Here's the fingering, you can see it from up top. So F minor, and I'm gonna play the same exact thing in the right hand, but switch the bass note to B flat. I have a whole lesson on suspended chords, don't worry. And then we ended on the E flat major. Okay. This is a 2-5-1. 2, 5, 1. And then they have some special chords here. We have the dominant 13 and then a dominant 9. But that's not really the important part. But you know, I'll hold the chords here so you can learn it. So and it goes on. So, but I just want to get you familiar with like what a 2-5-1 sounds like, because most people think it's just all jazz stuff. And there's a bunch of 2-5-1s in that, but there's a lot of 2-5-1s in pop music as well if you're listening for it. But they're just voiced differently, but we'll get to that later. So that leads to my next topic, which is extensions. As you heard, these chords, they sounded extra buttery, extra saucy, and that's because I had extensions on them, rather than playing 2-5-1 with the triads. Right, because you could do that. Doesn't sound bad at all, it just sounds more plain instead of. That was just extensions. And extensions just means notes past the root. So if we're in the key of E flat, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's all that it means. It's saying like what happens if you go past, right, Zach? Like what if we go 1, 3, 5, 7, but what happens if we go past the E flat? Now we're to extensions. Right? So that's what that is. And that's how you get these really fat chords. If you see there, it says F minor 11, right? We have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. So again, it's not really for you to learn it right now. It's more just for you to be exposed to it, to understand like what this stuff is. So you have basic triads, and then you have seventh chords, and then you have extension chords. And one's not better than the other. Don't think that just because it's more notes is better. That's actually couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of times 2 notes is all you need. So don't think more notes is better. That's really not true at all. But just so you know, extensions is when you have notes that go beyond the root, and it's just adding extra harmony. It's more complex harmony. A triad has 3 notes. A seventh chord has 4 notes. And then your extension chords have 5+ notes, and that's how you get different varying levels of harmony. Extensions, okay? So let's do a quick recap. So in this beginner course, we learned just basically where all the keys are, right? There's 88 keys and they're divided up in groups of 12. And we got the sharps and flats, right? Sharps go up the keyboard, flats go down, right? So if you say D sharp, you find the D, you go up a half step. If you find D flat, if you say D flat, you find D, you go down a half step. We learned what half steps and whole steps are in that lesson. And then we also learned what major chords are. We learned what minor chords are, minor triads. We learned how to identify the major third and the flat third. And we learned why scales are important because they help us identify those things, right? And then after that, we got introduced into how to use the major and minor triads to learn different songs like Wild Things and Diamonds by Rihanna. And then after that, we got into basic harmony, understanding the cheat sheet, the basic pattern of harmony, the major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. Then from there, we learned the 2-5-1, just understanding the basics of 2-5-1, how that works in the number system, and calling out bass notes and then taking the cheat sheet and attaching those notes to it. After that, we talked about extensions. Now that's all I wanted to do for this beginner masterclass. Take the time to just learn this stuff. I'm going to link some songs below that are really easy to learn, that you're great for practicing this major and minor triad stuff and practicing the number system. So definitely take advantage of those videos. And then just for a quick little bonus, I wanted to go over practicing. So when you're practicing, number 1 tip is first practice musically. That's why I gave you guys the songs in the beginning, because when you learn, you have to learn musically. Otherwise, it's boring and you're not going to do it. And honestly, the whole point of playing this stuff is to play music anyways. So if you're not practicing musically, you know, what are we doing? The next thing is practice your mechanics. It is not enough to just know like the concept. You actually have to be able to execute it. I have a video that you really need to watch that talks about this. It's linked in the description below. Watch that video. But when you practice, make sure you can play it clean. So you keep playing it. I like to do a basic. If you can't do it 4 times in a row without making mistakes, you don't know it good enough. And do it clean. So if you're like playing like a scale and you're trying to learn it, so let's say you're learning that song Wild Things and you're learning it in the key of C, and you're like, okay, I'm playing the C chord, the F chord, and the G chord, but I don't really know those scales. Learn those scales and practice it 4 times in a row. 3, 4. Move to the F scale. Move to the G scale 4 times in a row. And the reason why you need to do that, you got to play it clean and smooth until it's like second nature. We don't think about it anymore. And guys and gals, once you learn it, you never have to relearn it again. Like once you get over the hump of like scales, you never have to learn it again. So learn it right the first time, and learn it with the song. So if you're learning a song like Diamonds, which is in the key of D, learn that D scale, because that's the key of the song. So that's the best way to learn in 12 keys, is just to learn a song in different keys. And as you do that, you'll learn more scales and you'll be able to practice more scales in a fun manner. But yes, practice the mechanics. Like first learn the concept and then play it so that way you can do it in a row 4 times without any mistakes. Then after that, practice the theory. And what I mean by that is once you can play the mechanics down really well, it frees up your brain to think more and start like dissecting, like, okay, I've got G, I've got B minor, I've got A, and start just kind of seeing like where the notes are, you know, like, okay, F sharp minor, and just get familiar with the chords. You want to build as much instantaneous recognition as possible. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is inversions, just as a little bonus, and let's go ahead and watch this video on inversions. All right, so inverting a chord simply means to rearrange the notes in any given chord. So for instance, if we have a C chord, the root position, that's C, E, G, and then we can play that E, G, C or G, C, E. So we didn't change or add any of the notes in the chord, we simply rearranged the order of which we played them. Okay, so there are 3 reasons why this is such a big deal. Number 1, it grants us freedom around the piano. We're no longer stuck playing our favorite chord in one position. So for instance, that C triad, you can move it around the piano like this. Number 2, it allows us to fit chord progressions together in cohesive and ergonomic ways. So take a listen to this first example where I play a chord progression. Now take a listen to this example. So you can tell right off the bat, the first example, I'm jumping across the piano, playing every chord in true position. And the second example, I'm using inversions so the chords fit together. Not only does it sound more cohesive, but just from an ergonomic standpoint, your hands are not jumping around the keyboard. So this is only possible by using inversions. Number 3, it allows variety, okay? This allows variety in movement. What I mean by that is, let's say you wanted to stay, let's say you have a song or a phrase that you're playing and it oscillates between 2 chords. Let's say E minor 7 and B minor 7. So without inversions, going back and forth between those 2 chords would sound like this. It didn't sound bad, but it was repetitive, and after a while that gets monotonous. Using inversions, we can actually play the same 2 chords, so we're not changing chords, but we're simply rearranging the notes, and because of that, it gives us a different sound, and it adds movement without actually changing the chords. This is a very, very, very big deal, and will consume at least 60 to 70% of your piano playing and harmonization. So check out this second example, where I go back and forth between the same 2 chords, but this time using inversions, and listen to how much more lively it sounds and how much more melodic and how much more of a phrase. The chords now start to speak a phrase rather than just be stagnant positions. Check this out. inversions don't just have to do with triads. Inversions can do with any kind of chord. So it's simply the art of rearranging the notes, not adding notes, not taking away notes, but the notes that are there. So if you start with the 4-note chord and you switch the notes around and it's still got the same 4 notes, that's an inversion. If you are talking about the way to specifically play a chord, that's a voicing, but we'll talk about that in another lesson. Make sure you take time to practice your inversions in all the different keys just to get familiar. Obviously it's up to you and how deep you want to go with it, but I use inversions all the time. And I cannot stress how important they are. It's a very simple concept and it seems very basic, but it's the foundation for a lot of creativity and exploration in music and across the piano. So this is something that you want to do after you got the basics down. So once you know the basic of the C, say the wild things, the C chord, the F chord, and the G chord, you can start practicing inversions. So notice that's how you move up and down the keyboard while playing the same chords, just through inversions. Right? So that's what inversions are really good for. That's why I'm able to do stuff like rootless voicings done inversions. But we'll get there, all that stuff in the more advanced courses. So the point of this masterclass was to give you a foundation so you understood basic harmony, like scales, intervals, chords, major, minor, like just the basics, how to do the number system, how to learn a song, how to practice correctly, what to practice and what to work on. That way, if you want to take more advanced courses like the improvisation course, neo-soul course, passing chords, grace notes, runs, or like the arpeggios course, all that stuff, it's going to require you to understand these basics, okay? So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this beginner masterclass. I hope it was helpful. Again, I've got more resources linked in the description below. Please like, share, comment, any feedback, and share this with everyone else that you know that wants to get introduced into piano or music in general. Would love to hear what you guys have to say, and I will catch you guys in the next video.